Kia ora koutou, rauranga tira mai, koe mā koroma, aku tuakana me taina mā. My first thing is an apology. Sorry about the picture. My publicist insisted on having something that was 20 years old. I actually did put in a picture that was more recent, but they said it at, what was the thing? It wasn't visually right, low resolution. So somewhere they dug out that one. I don't know, that's cool. Kia ora, thank you. My first thing is a mihi to everybody that's been here for today. It's a tough gig to do the last thing because everything that has been sort of said is the sort of thing that might be included in my kōrero. But I just want to say thank you for all of the thought and support about bringing this take together. It's really important. I want to acknowledge a couple of people in the room. I want to acknowledge my sister, who is Linda, who's done some work around organising this for Te Pūtea Whakatipu Trust. And just because he's here, I want to acknowledge my 87-year-old dad, who still thinks governance is pretty cool. So, look, this picture is of my tipuna from our top of the south area, that is Tamati Marino and Mere Nako. And if you know our rohe, you'll know how important these two people were in our past. They were governors of our rohe, governors of our whenua. They were really important people of the past. And we've had a role in our rohe since our migrations. And we've had a lot of changes and some significant things that have happened through the 19th century, the 20th century. But we had land that was in a lot of different sort of ownerships arrangements, and we decided to bring it together after many, many, many years, many decades of Crown's mismanagement of our lands. So in 1977, we went to Tapuwae marae, and we had a big hui, and we decided to move from, and you people that are of a certain age will understand, we moved from a Section 438 trust as part of the Māori Affairs 1953 Act into a Māori Incorporation. And that is really where our journey started. Basically, our journey of self-determination for our whānau. And my mum was at that meeting, and she said, look, we didn't really care if we had a dividend or not. We just wanted to actually get our own control back of our own lands, and we wanted to pass it on in a better state than what we'd got it. And they got it in a pretty bad state around those things. So they decided that an incorporation was the way that they wanted to do that. So that's basically our legal structure that we are. But at the heart of what we are is a whānau business. And we have a family bunch of groupings in terms of that as well. And when we started off the incorporation, because we had to start off afresh, we actually hired in the skills around governance and management. They weren't necessarily our people, but we needed to understand how did we operate in this environment. We had the mantra of best person for the job, and eventually we wanted to have our people as the best people in the job. And so as part of that, we decided that we would actually establish a scholarship program, and the scholarships were things that went through for those first years. And then we decided we actually wanted to be a little bit more deliberate about the pipeline of our leaders and our governors, and we actually started to see, look, we're getting to become more complex. We've got a range of different things. The Māori business landscape had really transformed. So 20 years later, we established a program that looked at associate directors. And thanks for the shout out, Guy, about our thing, because my whole thing is going to be talking about an experience that we had around our succession planning. Because the kaupapa is planning for success. And our why is because it is really a conversation about the future. And we really do believe that our success is in succession. We believe in the tuakana taina kaupapa, and we're focused on being really good governors, good citizens of our rohe and Aotearoa in general, and good ancestors to future generations. So we do want to make sure that we leave it in a better state than what we found it. I'm going to get this clicker right. Cool. So the scholarships were our first succession program, and we started that in the 1990s. and then we ran that for a while, and then we started the Associate Directors Program with my cousin Miriana. Was the first Associate Director we had, and I was the third. Our cousin Chris Atutahi, who's passed away now, was the second. But that was about 20 years ago, and it sort of like reminded me, wow, that's a 20-year timeline that I've been involved in this sort of kaupapa. But I really, really, really love working with the whānau. It's been an incredible thing. It's been really complex. It's been really challenging. It's been great development, but it's been awesome and cool at the same time. So I'm really talking to those people that are thinking about coming onto governance, and it's something that I think has really transformed part of my life. When we started our associate program, we actually started with 1 year, and you were just on the head board. By the end of it, you only got the acronyms, basically. You hadn't really understood what was happening around the place. And then you were thrown out, and then potentially you could come back on if somebody retired off the board. Not a lot of retirement in our boards, by the way. But 5 years later, I came onto the board. So then when I was on the board, we started a couple of reviews, and we decided to look at the Associate Directors Program and make it a 2-year program. First year is on our subsidiaries, so they could get some greater knowledge about the actual business, our business models, the risks involved in it. And then the second year was on our head board, which we call the parent. And that was about macro strategy and stuff across the group, investments, capital structures and stuff. And that became our Te Amo Nuku and our Te Hunga Pānuku 2 programs. We have 2 programs now at Wakatū. One is an Associate Directors Program and one is an Associate Managers Program. And they fall within our Owners Talent Development Strategy, which is called Kōnai Te Pua Waitanga. And it really is meant to provide people with experience in governance and management in our corporation. And as Wakatū grows and becomes more complex, it's really important that we get people with these really honed-in skills. So we've had the associate program since 2001, and the people in that picture are Rachel Kerr on the left of it, and she was one of our former recent associates, and she's now the Regional Trade Commissioner for North Africa and the Middle East for Trade Enterprise. And we've got Andrew Bishop, who's an investment advisor with Goldman Sachs. And they're really great calibre of people, but they've come in afresh for governance. And I just wanted to give some details about our program because people might want to know the things that happen. In our 2-year program, each one of the people actually has some executive management training, some executive project management training, some cultural wānanga, led by Bentham, kia ora Bentham, professional development in a other context, so that might be the Institute of Directors 1-week course, some leadership with the executive teams and the management teams in the organisation, some sector board meetings because we're in a whole range of industries and stuff. They attend the AGM, the SGM and those sorts of things. And then they have to do a project at the end of it, which is a 20 to 40 hours project. And that's a lot of mahi to fit into somebody that probably has another full-time job. So it's quite a big commitment. But after running these programs for a while, we wanted to see what this sort of thing looked like moving across the generations. So our succession plan evolved, and what we wanted to do was really ensure that it was a values-based, more comprehensive and more deliberate program. A program that we looked at where we had our tikanga at the heart, which was framed by mana, mauri and whakapapa. And this was all upheld through our application of tikanga. So we, as a group, brainstormed what the collective tikanga would be and what that should look like actually in practice. We thought about what really connects us, our culture, our whenua, and of course the whānau. And then where did we want to position ourselves for the future? How do we determine our future? We wanted a long-term plan that actually supported a succession plan that dovetailed into it. For us, it was really about being deliberate and not leaving the future up to chance, but having a strong hand in shaping our future. So once we had our associate program, we then developed a full-on program where the associates then looked at, by the invitation of the board, Wakatū's long-term plan, and that was our Te Pai Tāwhiti, which is our mokopuna policy. It's our kaupapa about being good ancestors. And then we had a scholarship program that really was about looking at these sorts of things and making sure that we had continuous intergenerational conversations about things. But the important thing for the program was that every of the participants that were involved in it, the thing they took out the most wasn't the technical stuff that I just listed. It was actually about the whakawhanaungatanga. And that was a fantastic thing for people to be getting together around things. Is this timing right? Do I have 50 seconds left? Okay. I noticed that there's a lot of alphas in the room, and you get that when you get into a governance setting and stuff, but I just wanted to touch on something that I think is an essential element to succession planning, which is really about mixing it up and getting some diversity. So, you know, for our succession planning, it's being deliberate about diversity in any sort of forms, age, stage, professional backgrounds, experience, whatever in that is, our hapu. And we know that actually overseas they're actually having, there's some significant movements around making sure that you have diversity in your organisation through some legislative regimes and requirements around reporting. Joe talked about the VUCA world, things are changing. Diversity actually allows you to have better decisions in those complex things. And it keeps things fresh, it brings new ideas. I'll move that one. So I wanted to say something to aspiring governors, and I just want to get really practical here. This picture here is of our STEM Academy students that we're supporting. They're Māori students in science, technology and engineering, and they're actually putting their foot forward and saying we want to be leaders of the future around stuff. For people that are young, that want to get involved in governance, I'd say get involved, get engaged in your organisation's activities. Go to your hapu iwi businesses, come to our wānanga, attend the SGMs, be seen, engage with the alumni, people like us, the tūhanga pānuku. We're actually really keen to support people. So we all have different experiences and different leadership styles, so you can kind of see where you might want to contribute and support around that. There was something that Guy said about adding value. Consider where you do add value to an organisation, and it could be in the diversity that you bring to it. So one of the things I suggest, really practical thing to do is draft a CV, 1 or 2 pages, and just outline your vision for the organisation and why you might want to be an associate, and tell us about the diversity that you might bring that will add value to the organisation. And if you get into a governance role, I think that power of observation is really important. Learn through watching the different styles and the different governance aspects of places. You know, you won't know what your own leadership style is yet, but there can be things that you might see you might want to emulate or that you might want to develop. And then I think the other aspect to it is actually be proactive. When you're on a board, I know it's important for you to do the observation, but actually go in and ask a whole lot of questions. You're in a perfect position to do it. So go in and actually ask the naive question, be deliberate, be provocative if you want to, like why are we doing this? What is this in our trust order? You know, is this within budget? Is this tika? Those sorts of things. And maybe look at some mentoring in different organisations outside of the one that you want to be for some governance. My last point in this one is I think maybe one of the things you should also do is go out and volunteer. Volunteer on other boards. And I reckon one of the great places to do it is at your local marae. I don't know one marae that doesn't want a committee secretary or a treasurer. You know, you can go out and do those sorts of things. Understand that one and understand what servant leadership is about. And then, once you've done all that, come back and decide actually if governance really is your gig. You don't have to be locked into it, because maybe it's not. But you can still add value to organisations in tons of different ways, and maybe there's an opportunity for you to do governance and management at the same time. This is a message to those that are developing succession programs, and I think one of the really important things is keep an ongoing engagement with past recipients. We've got a ton of them in the room at the moment, which I really want to acknowledge, but there's a lot of deliberate and effort and coordination that's required around that one. You might want to invest in some digital talent management solutions. That's a fancy way of saying how do you keep track of people and how do you make this as an ongoing program, which is really important. The reason we want to do that is we want to give people that have been on our program other experiential opportunities and maybe secondments to different national or international organisations as part of being of that program. And maybe don't take too much of a generalist approach. Maybe start actually looking at targeted skills that you really want. and really align the things, align it to your long-term plans so you can really understand what your future governance skills requirements are. And just a comment about balance, because boards actually need to ask themselves, how do we maintain that balance between the well-being of your whānau now, with maybe some dividends, and the well-being of your whānau in the future? Because decisions around planning for succession actually fall into that process too. Just a quick one. These are our tipuna, our Hippolyte, Elkington and Kātene tipuna, and they're celebrating Wakatū becoming established in 1977. It's an iconic picture for us. But for those who are governors, just some key messages to you. Make sure that succession, I think, as a chair, is actually on your agenda. Plan it in your monthly planning. If not that, make sure it's in your annual board planning, because it actually doesn't happen by chance. These programs, if they're going to succeed, need 100% support from the governance level. Do a governance review. They sound really basic and they seem like something that you might go into the IOD for, but actually they're really important, and they actually bring up the opportunities to have skills mapping and identify gaps where you might want to start to target and recruit for. And for governors, really think about mentoring. And mentoring doesn't have to be a big formal process. It can just be a coffee 2 or 3 times a day with people that are coming through. And the really important part, I think, is to be conscious about making space for the next generation governors. You know, maybe like Wakatū, you might want to empower your past associates, who are the people that are responsible for selecting our next associates. So they're done by the previous scholarshipes and associates. And the last thing is share the love. Recommend people to other organisations and stuff. Maybe think about some communal pooling of some of these situations for governance. Maybe have 1 year on the Wakatū board, 1 year on the PKW board. Maybe share some of these digital management information systems for scholarships. This is the next generation for Wakatū running through some of our orchards. It's pretty awesome. We know that we need different skills for different stages. Transformation stages where organisations are going into different places. So you need a really great pool of governors with a range of things that you could do. But I think really importantly at the moment, and I've heard a little bit of it talked about today, in the Māori governance space, we have a really significant job to do in the very near future. Co-governance is something we're hearing a lot about. It may be a political thing, but for us, it's a certainty in the future. So we need to know, how are we going to prepare our people to have to co-govern every other entity where we currently don't have a role in? So that's a really important thing for us as Māori. I've got a provocative thing that I want to say, which is probably one of the other things I think that's really important for people is, I don't believe that anyone should be planning to be on a board role forever. It's not healthy for the organisation, and there's a time when people should know when to pass the baton. So succession plans really help that. Lastly, we're at a tipping point because there's a balance between our wisdom and mana and this expertise of youth. And we have to look at what is the way that we can start making a way for next generations. There's this democratisation of governance that's happening for decision makers, but what is the Te Ao Māori response to that? What is our tikanga? Because whakawhanaungatanga is the thing that really matters above all in this one. And planning for succession should consider all of these sorts of take, and for us should be genuinely tikanga-led. So last one is, this is a picture of my great-great-great-grandmother, Mere Nako, and my mother. Her name's Te Waimata Oriwea Maharata Te Ake Turo. And they have both passed away. But I just wanted to leave you with this whakatauki. We really do believe that our success is in succession. We believe in the tuakana taina kaupapa, and we're focused on being good governors, good citizens, and good ancestors for future generations. We want to leave it in a better state than we received it, like my ancestors did, so I want to do the same. So nō reira, ka nui te mihi ki au koutou. Kia ora.